I am Megan Degenfelder, and I am honored to serve as Wyoming's elected State Superintendent of Public Instruction. I ran for this job in 2022 because I'm a passionate believer in the ability of education to lift people out of even the most dire of circumstances. As a product of public school education, I benefited personally from committed teachers and coaches that were among the greatest guiding lights in my life. And I am so very grateful for the influence they had in my life and in many others. But I want to speak with you today about the direction of our public schools and how, as conservatives, and more importantly, as Americans, it is vital that we return our focus to the fundamental purpose of public education. It's worth establishing what that purpose is, because some of us in this country seem to have lost sight of it. At the most basic level, the public education system was created to build stronger communities and a stronger country. It's that simple. That is the reason we all send tax dollars to fund our public schools, including those of us without children or those of us whose children have left the system. Because if every child is entitled to a quality education, then our communities, our country, we are all better off for it. So with that framework in mind, what do we mean by a good education? Well, that centers around three goals that early public education advocates emphasized. First, to prepare young people to fill good jobs and pursue their ambitions so that they as individuals and our country would be more economically prosperous. Second, to prepare young people to be good citizens by instilling in them a patriotic appreciation for our system of government and a sense of obligation to participate, sacrifice for the future of this great democracy. Third, and finally, to promote social cohesion by bringing together people of all different backgrounds and giving them a shared experience grounded in our founded ideals and civic values. These are worthy goals, and we as conservatives celebrate them. That is why so many of us are alarmed, because today the education establishment has taken it upon itself to reorient this mission in education away from these goals and impose a new and very different agenda, and it's failing us badly. It is not a new phenomenon that academic achievement has been de-emphasized. For years, the teacher unions have resisted accountability and opposed competition. Social promotion has advanced kids through the system when they couldn't even master a basic proficiency in subject matter. But it's getting worse. Increasingly, academic achievement in the name of preparing kids for a prosperous and productive adulthood is being replaced in the name of equity. Some schools in California, for instance, eliminated the A through F grading scale, and they stopped penalizing bad behavior, habits, and missed deadlines. Does that sound like the best way to prepare our students for their future? I can tell you, as someone who comes from the private sector, from the fossil fuel industry, workers with these attitudes towards performance will not go far or last long, and they will soon become dependent on the rest of us. This does not strengthen our nation, it weakens it. If we're going to meet the first goal of public education, to prepare students for a prosperous and productive future that contributes to the economic welfare of our country, then our public schools need to get back to unabashedly celebrating achievement and priming our youth for the demands of the workplace. Next, we need to bring back patriotism to our schools. And I want to be clear, when I say patriotism, I do not mean chauvinism or nativism. I do not mean that we must teach that America has gotten everything right. Of course, that is not what we as conservatives mean when we object to anti-American sentiments pervading our classrooms. Indeed, it's critical that we teach about the mistakes of our country, because only then can we talk about the tremendous progress we have made thanks to the brilliant system envisioned by our founding fathers. That's the part the left wants to leave out. Our founders never claimed to have created a perfect union. They explicitly proclaimed a government and a constitution that would give us a more perfect union. And our journey of becoming that more perfect union, that's the story we should be telling in our schools. Instead, we get the 1619 project curriculum, which, aside from getting key facts about history wrong, sets out to establish a sense of guilt and helplessness in our kids, dividing them by race, such that some kids are taught that they are oppressors whose successes will be a product of their privilege, not their merit. And yet other children are instructed that they are perpetual victims, stuck in a system and society that will always be rigged against them. Just the other day, the 1619 Project issued their latest high school lesson plan, which turns a math class into a social justice exercise in reparations math that uses up to 15 class periods. We wonder how we ended up with role models who refuse to stand for our national anthem. If the goal is to raise a new generation of leaders to preserve, protect, and improve upon what has made America the greatest country in the world, I've got news for you. They are doing it wrong. But that, of course, isn't their goal. Their goal is to achieve, through classroom instruction, the political ends that they have not been able to meet through political consensus, or more precisely, to impose political consensus on a classroom of impressionable future voters. To be sure, the public education system that produces a responsible, thoughtful citizenry should expose young people who will soon be eligible to vote to politics, current events, and complicated issues. And it should foster respectful debate in a setting where everyone understands that that is the mission. But it should not cloak political agendas in lesson plans. It should not presume the righteousness of one side over another. It should not neglect important context in order to obscure the whole story or legitimize fringe ideas from either side of the political spectrum. And it most certainly should not set out to undermine the values being passed on by parents in the home. We must never forget that parents are always entitled to play the central role in their child's education. Which gets me to my final goal in public education, social cohesion. Our schools are where we build community and foster qualities essential to an orderly, rules-based society. It doesn't matter if you're poor or rich, what the color of your skin is, or any differences. In the classroom, everyone is there to learn a common set of skills, knowledge, and rules that are necessary to participate in society. Further, through extracurricular activities like sports, we develop a sense of leadership, teamwork, fairness, obligation, community spirit, and of course, resilience and grace in loss. We carry these important attributes forward in the workforce and in our civic lives, and we are all better for it. Or at least that's how it's supposed to work and how it has worked until very recently. Too often today, however, our public schools are becoming places of social experimentation that serve to divide rather than to unite us. As I previously described, we have curricula that fosters resentment between races. Graphic sexual depictions are found in books available to minor children. Transgender athletes are redefining women's sports and challenging our fundamental understanding of what safe and fair play is. And if you object to any of this, then you will be met with slurs and protests. You will be intimidated and you will be silenced. I will not be silenced. I am a devout Christian, and God directs us to love one another above all else, to value humanity. All human life matters. Members of the LGBTQ+ community matter, and we should treat them with respect and dignity. I will not allow these values to be misrepresented by the left. I was also a high school and college athlete, and now coach the University of Wyoming women's rugby team. This Division I team, this sport, is arguably the most contact sport that exists. My number one priority as a coach is to protect my girls. And number two is to make sure that they can compete on a level playing field, where the only thing that stands between them and the accolades of high achievement are other biological females. If radical and divisive political agendas exist in schools, we will experience the fraying of our social fabric. We are experiencing that, rather than advancing the goals of social cohesion. Unfortunately, we are seeing the left betray each of these three goals that I've listed in public education, and the very mission that those goals represent, a stronger America. So when conservatives and parents of all political stripes question the value proposition of public schooling or seek alternatives, we can hardly blame them. Too many schools simply are not delivering on their promise. In fact, they're doing the opposite. If voters are looking for champions for our public school system, then make no mistake. The champions are those who want to challenge the educational establishment and restore the fundamental mission to public education. If we can do that, it will be a lot easier to convince voters to approve school budgets or increase teacher salaries. More importantly, we will then return to our mission of producing future generations prepared to pursue their wildest and boldest dreams, fulfill their obligations as citizens, and love and support all their neighbors as fellow travelers on this journey to create a more perfect union. Thank you.